From the very first second of the Dutton Ranch Episode 1 trailer, it becomes clear that this show isn't trying to replace Yellowstone. It's expanding its world in a way that feels familiar yet completely new. We see glimpses of Beth and Rip's new life in Texas, a life that looks peaceful on the surface but carries the tension of a storm quietly building in the distance. Rip is shown working the cattle with the same steady determination he had back on the Yellowstone Ranch, while Beth watches their new world with that sharp, calculating gaze we all know so well. It feels like they're trying to convince themselves that this land can become their new home, that they can escape the ghosts of Montana, and that they can build something stable for Carter. But Yellowstone fans understand one thing: Duttons never get peace without paying a price. And this trailer wastes no time reminding us of that. There's something uneasy beneath the calm Texas sun, something that follows them, something that refuses to die. The trailer hints at early problems with their business, and you can almost tell from Rip's expression that something is already wrong. The cattle look scattered, the workers seem stressed, and Rip walks with that familiar mix of responsibility and frustration. It feels like he's already aware that someone out there doesn't want them in Texas. A brief line in the trailer, just a few words from one of Rip's men shifts the tone completely. "We've got trouble." It's not said loudly. It's not dramatic. But the quietness of it makes it even more threatening. Fans know that in this universe, trouble never means something small. This could be sickness in the herd, stolen cattle, some unexpected danger lurking around, or maybe even a rival ranch sending a warning. And just like that, the peaceful image collapses. Then comes the moment that sets the direction of the entire show, our introduction to Bula Jackson. Even in the few seconds she appears, she radiates confidence, charm, and pure danger. Her voice, her posture, even the way she looks at the land around her tells us she's someone who gets what she wants. The trailer doesn't need to spell it out. Bula is the biggest threat in this new world. Her ranch looks massive, her influence seems untouchable, and her methods, well, the trailer makes it clear she doesn't play fair. The way she talks about protecting her territory feels like a direct challenge to Beth and Rip. It's like she's saying, "You don't belong here, and I will make sure you never succeed." And if we know Beth, we know she won't let that go. What makes this even more thrilling is the tension building between Bula and Beth without a single direct confrontation shown in the trailer. It's almost as if the show is teasing two powerful women. Both cunning, both fearless, both ready to cross every line to protect their world. You can already feel the electricity of their future conflict. It is the kind of rivalry that can carry an entire season. And Rip will be right there beside Beth, ready to fight whoever steps in their way. The trailer even shows a quick moment where Rip's eyes turn cold, the same expression he had whenever someone threatened the Yellowstone family. That look alone tells us everything. War is coming. But what really adds depth to this trailer is the emotional thread tied to Carter. He's older now, more confident, more aware of the world around him. There's a moment where he stands next to Rip, looking out at the land as if trying to figure out his place in it. He's not just a kid anymore. He feels like the next generation of the Dutton legacy, even though he's not a Dutton by blood. And in the middle of all this tension and conflict, the trailer drops a quick but important detail, a glimpse of Oriana, the mysterious girl whose presence immediately catches Carter's attention. She appears wild and free, yet her expression carries the weight of someone who knows far more than she's willing to show. Fans already suspect she might be connected to Bula Jackson. And if that's true, it sets up a perfect enemies to lovers arc that could explode into something dramatic and heartbreaking. As the music intensifies, the trailer closes with a single line from Beth, spoken quietly but filled with fire. "Let them come." That one sentence is enough to send chills because we know when Beth says something like that, someone is about to regret crossing her. It sets the tone for the entire season. This isn't a story about escaping the past. It's a story about facing new enemies, new secrets, and new battles in a land that's just as unforgiving as Montana. The trailer ends abruptly, almost brutally, leaving us hungry for more. And although the footage is short, it paints a clear picture. Dutton Ranch isn't about peace. It's about survival. As we move deeper into what Episode 1 promises to deliver, the tension surrounding Beth and Rip's new life becomes even more complicated. Because the trailer quietly hints that Texas isn't just a change of scenery, it's a complete shift in power, politics, territory, and danger. What makes this spin-off fascinating is that Beth and Rip are no longer surrounded by the familiar support system of the Yellowstone Ranch. There's no John Dutton guiding the decisions, no case running security, no loyal cowboys who have spent years fighting beside them. They're alone now, rebuilding from scratch. and that isolation becomes one of the biggest dangers in the story. The trailer includes a moment where Beth says something like, "This land owes us nothing," and that single line captures the entire heart of the show. They're strangers here, and they're stepping into a world already controlled by powerful established ranchers who don't appreciate newcomers rising too fast. And this is exactly where Bula Jackson's presence becomes even more threatening. Because the more we watch the trailer, the more it feels like she's been watching Beth and Rip long before they realized they were stepping into her territory. The trailer's pacing suggests that episode 1 will spend a significant amount of time showing how the locals view the new arrivals. Texas ranching culture is portrayed as tough, proud, and competitive. And many of the older ranchers shown in the teaser look like they harbor suspicion or resentment toward outsiders. One line from a background character, barely noticeable unless you're paying attention, captures this perfectly. They build fast. Too fast. It implies that Beth and Rip's progress is being observed, judged, and probably feared. And if there's one thing we know about Beth, it's that she doesn't hide. She doesn't slow down. And she never tries to make herself small for anybody. So her rising influence was bound to make enemies, even without her doing anything intentionally provocative. Rip, on the other hand, tries to stay calm and grounded, but the trailer shows his patience wearing thin. This sense of being watched and measured raises the stakes, because it makes us realize the danger isn't coming, it's already here. The trailer also reveals tiny glimpses of Wen and Rob, the two men who work for Bula Jackson, and their presence adds another layer of threat to episode 1. Wen is introduced almost silently, but the look in his eyes says everything. He seems like the kind of man who does whatever he's told without hesitation or remorse. Rob, on the other hand, has this unpredictable energy. You can't tell if he's about to smile or snap someone's neck. These two represent Bula's power, her reach, and her willingness to get her hands dirty through other people. There's a moment in the trailer where Rob looks directly at the camera, and it feels like a warning. It's the kind of stare that tells you he's going to be a serious problem, especially for someone like Rip, who has no patience for men who threaten his family. Episode 1 will almost certainly plant the seeds of conflict between Rip and Bula's men, because the trailer seems to tease physical confrontations, quiet intimidation, and the beginning of a rivalry built on pride, land, and survival. But perhaps the most chilling moment in the trailer appears when Beth's past is subtly referenced. There's a quick flash of a line where someone says, "Everyone has a story, even the ones who run from it." And the music drops into a darker tone. For fans who remember Yellowstone, this hits hard, because Beth's past is filled with trauma, violence, and secrets she never wanted the world to know. And even though the trailer doesn't show who says it, the implication is clear: someone in Texas has already started digging into Beth and Rip's lives. It might be Bula, or maybe someone connected to law enforcement, or perhaps a rival journalist looking for a story. But the fact that their past is being investigated sets up a dangerous storyline, because the bodies buried in Montana didn't stay buried cleanly. Jaime's disappearance alone could destroy everything Beth and Rip are trying to build if the truth ever comes out. And episode 1 will likely show the first signs of that truth starting to surface. What makes this tension even stronger is the emotional weight placed on Beth and Rip's relationship. The trailer highlights moments where they lean on each other, not out of fear, but out of determination. They're trying to create a new world for Carter, a world where he can grow without the shadow of constant danger. But fate never seems to let them have peace. The way Beth looks at Rip, the way Rip tries to shield her from the looming threats, it all feels like the beginning of a story where love and danger are tangled so tightly that one cannot survive without the other. And Carter's growing role in their lives adds deeper emotional stakes. The trailer shows him stepping into responsibilities he never had before, learning from Rip, trusting Beth, and trying to become someone worthy of the Dutton legacy. But at the same time, he is still young and vulnerable, and the look of worry on his face in several shots suggests he senses the danger around them long before he fully understands it. One of the most intriguing elements teased in the trailer is the subtle introduction of Oriana. She appears almost mysteriously, with a quiet confidence that immediately draws attention. The way she looks at Carter feels like a mixture of curiosity and recognition, as if she sees something in him that reminds her of her own struggles. If she truly is connected to Bula, then episode 1 could establish a complicated dynamic. Carter caught between loyalty to the only family he's ever known and the pull of someone who might represent everything he fears and desires in equal measure. The trailer cleverly avoids revealing too much, but the tension is unmistakable. It feels like the beginning of a story that could either bring Carter into the fiercest conflict of his life or push him into making choices that could split the family apart. The final part of the trailer for episode 1 adds a heavy layer of dread. There's a sequence of quick cuts: Rip looking furious, Beth staring someone down, Carter running somewhere as if something urgent has happened, Bula smiling in a way that feels almost triumphant. Then the screen goes dark. A single line is heard. Texas takes what it wants. It's a cold, haunting reminder that this land is unforgiving, brutal, and full of people who will fight mercilessly to keep what's theirs. And now Beth, Rip, and Carter are stepping directly into that fire. Episode 1 isn't just setting up a new chapter, it's warning us that a storm is coming. And this time, the danger doesn't care about the Dutton name. As episode 1 continues to unfold based on what the trailer suggests. The atmosphere around Beth and Rip's new ranch grows more unsettling, almost like the land itself is warning them that they've stepped into something far bigger than they imagined. The trailer gives the impression that the first episode will focus heavily on the growing tension between the newcomers and the long-established ranchers who view this land as their birthright. There's this particular moment where the camera lingers on Beth staring at a nearby ranch across the field, her expression sharp and calculating, as if she's reading between lines nobody else can see. Beth has always had an instinct for danger, and the way she observes everything around her makes it feel like she already senses the storm coming. The locals' cold respect toward Rip and Carter adds to this uneasiness. It's not open hostility, not yet, but it's the kind of passive resistance that grows into full confrontation if left unchecked. Texas ranching culture is built on pride, and from the way the trailer frames the town, you can tell these people don't like outsiders rising too quickly, especially not outsiders who carry the Dutton name and reputation. This becomes even more apparent when the trailer hints at an early confrontation between Rip and a group of ranch hands from a neighboring property. They don't look aggressive at first, more curious than threatening, but the tension in Rip's posture says he doesn't trust them for a second. Rip's past has taught him to read men fast. And these men aren't greeting the new neighbors out of friendliness. They're collecting information. They want to know how many cattle Beth and Rip own, how fast they're expanding, who they hired, and what kind of presence they plan to establish in Texas. This moment is subtle, but extremely important for episode 1, because it shows that the battle for land and influence begins quietly, with calculated observations, silent judgments, and a growing awareness that Beth and Rip's success is already stepping on the toes of people who have deep roots in this region. It sets the stage for a rivalry that isn't loud or explosive at first, but incredibly dangerous. Then comes one of the most intense parts of the trailer, a moment that fans may overlook but is crucial for the story. There's a shot of Bula Jackson at a town meeting or community event, surrounded by people who clearly respect her. She has this calm, controlled authority that demands attention without her needing to raise her voice. Her presence alone shows why she is considered the most powerful ranch owner in the region. And it's during this moment that she first acknowledges Beth and Rip, making a subtle comment that sounds polite on the surface but carries a sharp and threatening undertone. The trailer doesn't reveal her exact words, but the reaction of the people around her tells us she has drawn a clear line between her empire and the newcomers trying to build theirs. This confirms that episode 1 won't wait long to set up the central conflict. Bula is not only aware of Beth and Rip, she has already decided they are competition that needs to be dealt with quickly. The trailer hints that episode 1 will dive into Bula's strategy right away. Unlike other Yellowstone villains who often act impulsively, Bula seems to prefer calculated movements, quietly observing her enemies and sending subtle warnings before launching into full attacks. There's a brief shot of Wen at a fence line, writing something down and watching Rip's cattle graze. He doesn't look nervous or surprised. He looks like a man following orders. On the other side, there is Rob, leaning against a truck with that unpredictable, almost dangerous smirk that suggests he enjoys the chaos that comes with conflict. These two, working under Bula, create a layered threat. Wen is the silent problem solver, the man who thinks before he strikes, while Rob seems more like the physical weapon, confident and willing to cross far more lines than he should. Episode 1 seems ready to introduce them as the first wave of pressure against Beth and Rip, the quiet beginning of a territorial war that will grow more violent as the season progresses. But what truly elevates the suspense in episode 1 is how the trailer hints at the resurfacing consequences of Beth and Rip's past crimes. There's a brief line from an unknown voice, perhaps someone from local law enforcement, or a private investigator saying something like, "Funny thing about secrets, they follow you no matter how far you run." This line isn't just dramatic, it's haunting. because it implies someone has begun reopening the old Montana mysteries. The unsolved disappearance of Jaime Dutton is the biggest of all. In Yellowstone, his vanishing was brushed aside due to incompetent investigators. But Texas is different. A new sheriff or investigative team might start asking questions the original officers never asked. And when someone starts digging into Beth and Rip's past, they won't have to search long before discovering inconsistencies, strange timelines, and missing pieces. Episode 1 will likely plant the seeds of this investigation, creating a second threat, one that isn't about land or cattle, but about murder, lies, and the dark truth hiding beneath the surface. Meanwhile, Carter's storyline quietly weaves through this tension, showing how he struggles to adapt to a world that feels familiar yet different. The trailer shows him working the land with Rip, looking determined but uncertain, as if trying to prove himself not just to them but to this new environment. There's a moment where Carter glances toward Oriana from across a dusty road, their eyes meeting briefly before she looks away. It's a tiny moment, but it speaks volumes. Oriana carries this mysterious aura, like someone who knows exactly what kind of world she lives in and is already preparing for the battles ahead. If she is connected to Bula, all signs point to her being either her daughter or someone raised under her influence. Then Carter's immediate interest in her will eventually put him in the crossfire. Episode 1 will likely show the early sparks of their connection while simultaneously hinting at the danger of it. Carter may be old enough to understand responsibility, but he's still young enough to be pulled by emotion, curiosity, and the desire to be understood by someone his age. What makes this tension even stronger is the emotional weight placed on Beth and Rip's relationship. The trailer highlights moments where they lean on each other, not out of fear, but out of determination. They're trying to create a new world for Carter, a world where he can grow without the shadow of constant danger. But fate never seems to let them have peace. The way Beth looks at Rip, the way Rip tries to shield her from the looming threats, it all feels like the beginning of a story where love and danger are tangled so tightly that one cannot survive without the other. And Carter's growing role in their lives adds deeper emotional stakes. The trailer shows him stepping into responsibilities he never had before, learning from Rip, trusting Beth, and trying to become someone worthy of the Dutton legacy. But at the same time, he is still young and vulnerable, and the look of worry on his face in several shots suggests he senses the danger around them long before he fully understands it. One of the most intriguing elements teased in the trailer is the subtle introduction of Oriana. She appears almost mysteriously, with a quiet confidence that immediately draws attention. The way she looks at Carter feels like a mixture of curiosity and recognition, as if she sees something in him that reminds her of her own struggles. If she truly is connected to Bula, then episode 1 could establish a complicated dynamic. Carter caught between loyalty to the only family he's ever known and the pull of someone who might represent everything he fears and desires in equal measure. The trailer cleverly avoids revealing too much, but the tension is unmistakable. It feels like the beginning of a story that could either bring Carter into the